In just about 3 weeks now, the first public schools here in the state will open for the 2021-2022 school year. It's a school year that once again will be impacted and influenced by COVID. And joining us now to talk more about the return to school from the perspective of Connecticut's teachers are Dias and Joslyn Delancey. Kate is the newly elected president of the Connecticut Education Association. That is the state's largest teachers union. And Joslyn is the newly elected vice president. Congratulations to both of you, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Kate, let me start with you in your new role. First of all, we know there's a lot going on, and I do know you were a teacher for many, many years before you shifted into this role right now with the union. What do you anticipate the upcoming school looking like? I would imagine you're hearing from a lot of teachers right now who have some concerns.
So we're anticipating full return for students. I think that was kind of a priority coming off of last year, was the idea that we needed to get as many students back in active engagement into the classrooms as humanly possible. But that brings with it a risk. As the Delta variant has started to progress and kind of expand in the state, we are starting to hear a little bit of concern about what's the impact of that. What are the control processes we're going to try and utilize to try and mitigate the spread? There's a lot of focus on the governor and whether or not he's going to create a mask mandate in schools and provide that layer of security around the spread of the largely unvaccinated student population. And so I think that's where a lot of our focus is really talking about is what does the reentry look like? And will we be facing a year of in and out from quarantine? I think we're really concerned about the impact of prolonged quarantines on students as well.
Joslyn, I'm curious what you think after the past year or so with a lot of distance learning and those kinds of things that played out. I think as we headed into the fall, people maybe thought we'd be in a better situation than we are right now. Looks like students will be in masks. As Kate was just talking about right there, a lot of these kids are not vaccinated, of course, because of their age. Moving forward, what is your advice for teachers in the classroom?
I think the first and foremost is that our commitment is to our students. And so that they put their heart and soul into caring for the kids and making sure that we are safe and that they are teaching their passions in a way that they can feel supported. And they will be supported by us and by other stakeholders, because the job that they're doing is tremendous. And we know that we have such a journey ahead of us in terms of ensuring that we're teaching what we know and in the best practice possible, and to make sure that kids are safe and that our staff is safe so that we can be in school. That's our goal, right? To be in the classrooms, to be teaching our kids, and to make sure that we can do it with care and consistency. And that's really what we're hoping for.
Kate, looking at the past year, a lot of parents have thought that maybe their kids suffered a setback by being at home as much as they were. Is there a way to make that up, perhaps, as we go forward, hopefully more time in the classroom?
Well, one of the things we're fortunate in here in Connecticut is it's one of the top education systems in the country, and consistently ranks on the highest levels. And that's in large part due to the educators and their commitment to meeting kids where they are at and helping to move them forward in a way that is really meaningful to their individual growth. So I'm looking at this from, lapses are normal actually in education. It's kind of a practice that we always have to endure, I guess, with our kids. And so it's the professionalism of our teachers, their ability to come in, navigate those waters with kids, see where they're at today, and develop a plan for their growth into the future and in their school year. It's going to take some time. We're going to need to really assess where students are on day one and determine what's the most appropriate ways to support them in their growth and their education, in their own, sort of personal evolution in this school year, and struggling with the pandemic and the isolation. So we know there's a lot of work that's going to happen in schools that is traditional academic work, but also that social and emotional learning component. And a lot of that's going to drive that is the educators on the ground level with the students, figuring out what the needs are and how we're going to meet those needs. So I'm confident in the skilled hands of educators that we can really move students successfully forward. It's a big task this year, but I feel that our educators are up to that.
You know, it's hard even as adults when you look back over the past year and a half or so, how we've all made it through this emotionally and all the different toll that it can take on our bodies and our mental health. Joslyn, you were in the classroom, if I remember correctly, with fifth graders last year. What were you hearing from them, even virtually? What kind of emotional problems were they facing? Because it's very, very hard as adults. I would imagine children are dealing with it as well in a different way.
Yeah, it really would depend on the students, especially some students who were at home learning remotely while we had other kids who were in school learning in person. And I found that that was probably the hardest part for some of our students, that they felt a little detached because they were in one environment and their friends were in a different environment. And that was a very hard path for them to take. I think that the more that we could be in person, the more that we could be doing, our normal instruction, what that looks like, the students felt much more supported and together. And the isolation, I think, was really, really hard for some kids. So the goal would be to get everybody back together so that we can be together, but we have to do that in a safe way and consistently so that it's equitable across the state, because I think that was hard too for some kids who had circumstances that weren't the same as their peers. It was really hard to feel connected and supported when you're kind of removed from that supportive environment in person.
For sure. Kate, before we let you go, I just want to ask you briefly, what's your advice for parents out there who are concerned right now and maybe a little apprehensive about sending their kids back?
I would say to them, know that there is a significant group of educators who are watching out for their children, who have their children's safety, security, and education really in their eyesight, and are focused on making sure that kids have a fabulous school year, because we know that there's a significant amount of time kids are going to spend in school. And the educators I know, the ones that we're talking to, are really firmly committed to make sure that this experience is good and that students feel comfortable and confident and safe, and that they're really thinking about what does that sound like and feel like and look like. And they will be reaching out to parents and making sure that that connection between home and school is solid, so that whatever comes up, that we're all going to handle it, and we're going to handle it together.
Kate Dias and Joslyn Delancey, thank you both very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time. Good luck with the new school year.
Thank you.
Thank you.